putting all this on me. And he's also not owning that he just doesn't have the interest. He said it to me in private, but he's still not saying it here.
For 16 years, we watched Meri Brown cry on television and tell us that plural marriage was her choice. She just admitted that was a complete lie. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you've been following Sister Wives as long as I have, you know this family has built an entire empire on telling us one thing while living another. And today, I'm breaking down Meri Brown's latest interview where she finally tells the truth about what really happened in that family. So Meri sat down with notes to Self Melanie, and honestly, this might be the most honest conversation she's ever had about her life in polygamy. And what she revealed completely changes how we have to look at everything we've watched for the past decade and a half. Let's start at the very beginning. Meri admitted that before Sister Wives even started filming in 2010, she was already questioning her faith. She was already deconstructing. She wasn't sure she even believed in plural marriage anymore. Think about that for a second. For 16 seasons, we watched her defend this lifestyle, advocate for it, cry about it, fight for it. And she was questioning all of it before we ever met her. She was asked about something really personal, whether she wore her religious garments during the show. And Meri was honest about it. She said she wore them for appearances. She wore them because she had to look the part on television. But she had actually stopped wearing them even before the show first aired. She went back and forth, but ultimately, she was playing a role. She was performing a version of herself that fit what the church expected and what the show needed her to be. Now here's where things get really interesting. Meri talked about something that I have been saying for years, and she finally put actual words to it. She was asked whether she actually got to choose the other wives and whether she had any real say when Kody brought new women into the family. And her answer was honest in a way we've never heard from her before. She called it coercive control. She explained that technically, yes, she had a say. She could voice her opinion. She could express concerns. But here's the reality of that situation. If she said no, she would get in trouble. If she pushed back against Kody bringing someone new in, she would be the wrong one. It would be her fault. She would face consequences from Kody, from the church, from her family, from everyone around her. So, did she really have a choice? No. She didn't. Because when saying no means you get punished, when saying no means you might lose your husband, when saying no means you might go to hell according to your faith, that's not a real choice. That's coercion. That's control. And she lived inside that system for over 30 years. This explains so much about what we watched on Sister Wives. Remember how Meri always seemed to struggle when new wives joined? Remember how complicated her relationships were with Janelle and Christine and eventually Robin? It wasn't just personality conflicts. It wasn't just jealousy. It was that she didn't want them there. She didn't choose them. She didn't ask for them to join her family. But she couldn't say no, so she had to pretend to be okay with it while inside she was falling apart. And then she confirmed something that fans have speculated about for years. When Kody met Robin, everything changed. Meri said that Kody and Robin were essentially a monogamous couple from the very beginning. Everything else, all the other marriages, all the other relationships, were basically just for show. Kody never truly came back to the other wives after Robin entered the picture. He just strung them along while giving all of his real emotional energy to Robin. She talked about how devastating it was in the very first season when Robin called Kody her soulmate on camera. Meri said she understood why Robin said it. She wasn't blaming Robin for feeling that way, but she admitted that it hurt. It hurt deeply. Because Kody was supposed to be a husband to multiple wives. He was supposed to be mindful of how his actions and his words affected everyone. But he wasn't. He found a soulmate, and everyone else just had to deal with the leftovers. This echoes exactly what Christine Brown has said about her experience. Christine has been very open about how Kody treated her differently after Robin came along. How he stopped making an effort. How he made it clear that she wasn't his priority. And now Meri is confirming that this wasn't just Christine's experience. This was everyone's experience. All of them felt abandoned. All of them knew they were no longer important to him. But they kept going. They kept filming. They kept defending him and defending the lifestyle, even while their own marriages were falling apart around them. Here's what really gets me about all of this. Meri revealed that as early as season 5, all of the wives were basically ready to leave. Someone close to the family told me years ago that Janelle was saving money during that time, preparing to exit. Meri was only showing up for the show, in and out, barely present in the marriage. The women were done. They were done with Kody, done with polygamy, done with pretending. But they stayed. Why did they stay? Well, it's complicated. Leaving a belief system isn't easy. Just because you're deconstructing in your mind doesn't mean you have the courage to say it out loud. When your entire family, your entire community, your entire faith structure is built around this way of life, walking away means losing everything. It means losing your family, your friends, your sense of purpose, your identity. And on top of all of that, there's the show. The show changed everything. And not necessarily in the ways we might think. Meri explains something really fascinating about how being on camera actually affected Kody's ability to manipulate them. Before the show, Kody could run from wife to wife and tell each one whatever he wanted them to hear. He could lie. He could misrepresent conversations. He could play them against each other, and they would never know the truth because they didn't have access to what he was saying to the others. But once the show started, everything was documented. Everything was filmed. They could watch the episodes and see exactly what Kody said to Janelle. They could see what he told Christine. They could compare his words and his promises and see where he was lying. His ability to deceive them, to keep them in the dark, to manipulate them with secrets, that was gone. And when you can see your husband lying to you on television, when you can watch him say one thing to you and something completely different to another wife, you can't ignore it anymore. The trust erodes. The confidence in the relationship erodes. And eventually, you start asking yourself why you're even still there. But here's the part that I struggle with. Even though they knew they wanted to leave, even though they were planning to leave as early as season 5, they kept advocating for polygamy. They went to protests. They lobbied to change laws. They wanted polygamy to be decriminalized. They wanted it to be legal. They stood in front of cameras and told the world that this lifestyle was beautiful and fulfilling and should be protected. And they did all of this knowing that they didn't even want to live this way themselves. Now, does that mean they're bad people? I don't think it's that simple. I understand how complicated it is when you're trapped in a system. I understand the pressure to maintain appearances. I understand that they had contracts and commitments and families to think about. But it's hard to watch them advocate for something they knew was broken while people like Joe Darger and others use that advocacy to legitimize a lifestyle that, in my opinion, causes real harm. Meri talked about how the system itself is toxic. She acknowledged that she was brainwashed. She used that word herself. She said she was deceived by her faith, and she doesn't believe in any of it anymore. She's dealing with trauma. She's trying to heal. And hearing her say that, hearing her admit that she was manipulated and controlled, it makes me understand her so much better. Think about what it must have been like for her. Every time Kody brought a new wife in, she had to pretend to be happy. She had to pretend to welcome this woman into her home, into her family, into her marriage. She had to deal with the children that came from those marriages, children she never asked for, children she didn't want to raise, but children she had to be around because Kody said so. And if she showed any resistance, if she was cold or angry or frustrated, she was the problem. She was the difficult one. She was the wife who wasn't living up to her spiritual duties. That doesn't excuse everything. I'm not saying that. There have been allegations over the years about how Meri treated some of the children, about her relationships with the other wives, about things that may have happened that caused real pain. But understanding the context matters. Understanding that she was living under coercive control matters. Understanding that she was forced to accept women and children into her life that she never wanted matters. It doesn't erase what happened, but it helps explain why she was the way she was. Meri also addressed something that I think is really important. She talked about how, as the first wife, there's a particular kind of heartbreak that comes with watching your husband bring in wife after wife. You were there first. You were the one he chose initially. And then you have to watch him choose someone else, and then someone else, and then someone else. And with each new wife, your worth, your value, your place in his life gets smaller and smaller. She didn't say this directly, but I think we can read between the lines here. When you're raised in a culture that tells you plural marriage is the highest form of righteousness, that sacrificing your jealousy is a spiritual act, that being a good wife means accepting your husband's other wives with open arms, you internalize so much of that. And when you can't do it perfectly, when you feel jealous and hurt and angry, you turn that on yourself. You think something is wrong with you. You think you're not faithful enough, not spiritual enough, not good enough. Meri lived with that for decades. Decade after decade of feeling like she was failing because she couldn't be happy about sharing her husband. Decade after decade of pretending to be okay, while inside, she was breaking. And the show just amplified all of that. Every season, every interview, every confession, she had to perform happiness. She had to perform contentment. She had to be the loyal first wife who supported her husband and welcomed her sister wives. At the end of the interview, Meri dropped some big news. She's writing a book. She's currently working on a tell-all memoir about her journey, her life, her story. She didn't announce a publisher yet. She didn't give a release date. But she confirmed that it's happening. She's putting it all down on paper. She also addressed Christine's book. She said she hasn't read it, and she acknowledged that every single person in this family has a completely different experience and a completely different point of view. What Christine went through isn't what Meri went through. What Janelle experienced isn't what Robin experienced. They were all in the same family, but they were all in completely different marriages with completely different dynamics. One thing Meri made clear is that she's not interested in attacking anyone. Even in this interview, she was careful not to say anything truly negative about Kody or Robin or the other wives. She acknowledged that she was hurt. She acknowledged that the system caused her pain. But she also gave people grace. She said she doesn't know if anyone was intentionally trying to hurt her or if everyone was just trying to survive their own circumstances. She does seem to be done with Kody, though. That came through pretty clearly. She doesn't like what he put her through. She doesn't appreciate how he treated her. But she also recognizes that he's stuck in his own patterns, and even though he's in a monogamous relationship with Robin now, his personality hasn't changed. Robin is dealing with her own challenges, defending a husband who still hasn't learned how to be a good partner to anyone. Here's what I love about where Meri is now. She's not sitting around waiting for Kody to change. She's not hoping he'll come back to her. She's moving forward with her life. She's dating. She actually started a speed dating company with her friend Jen. They just hosted their first event, bringing people together to connect and have fun. She's building something new. She's creating a life that's actually hers. She's also being really honest about where she is emotionally. She said she doesn't know what she wants her future to look like yet. She just knows she doesn't want what she had. She's not ready to commit to anything new because she wants to make sure she's truly ready. After 30 years of being told what to do, who to love, how to live, she's finally giving herself permission to figure it out on her own terms. So here's where we land. After 16 years of pretending, Meri Brown finally admitted the truth. She never wanted sister wives. She was already questioning everything before the show started. She couldn't say no to Kody bringing new women in. And now she's writing a book about all of it. What do you think about her confessions? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.